we didn't go into the Kli Yakar, but we mentioned that the soul that was blown in would be a soul that would continue to develop. The soul that was blown into us would be a soul that as the human being would evolve, the human being had the ability to be able to stand Cook, who speaks about that when Mashiach comes, that we're going to have vegetarianism again. The idea being is that, how could that be though?
Meat will grow on trees.
How could that be? The 3D printed.
Nice steaks on the tree.
How can that be? Because the Rambam, when he gives the halachas, he discusses korbanos and meat. So the way that he answers is that through this Kli Yakar, is that in the beginning of the times of Mashiach, there'll be meat eating. A person will evolve beyond that. They won't need to have meat. Meat eating is something that seems to be pretty heavy, and also there's violence involved. Korban Pesach. There will yes be Korban Pesach. So we one time gave a class of how much meat does a vegetarian have to eat? 1 kazayas.
A year?
A year.
What?
On Pesach. The Paschal lamb.
You don't have to be on Shabbos, but like, some bacon to this or
Nowadays, bos of a yayin, bos of a dagim, v'kol matamim. Nowadays, there is sparks that are being elevated, but meat eating is not pasha. The Gemara talks about that meat eating was not for amaratzim during the days of the week. If a person was not a Torah scholar, he should really stay away from meat. Unless on Shabbos.
What about places like Beach where they give us chicken every day?
Doesn't mean you have to have it.
It's a big
If it's helping you, yes, but don't get lost in the fleishiks. If you're getting lost in the fleishiks, then it's not good.
Is that kind of fish along with like other meat, or is
Fish is separate, but fish is also included in. Fish we're not giving to Adam. He said that for you will be vegan, vegetarian. So here the Kli Yakar is saying the soul that came into us is a developing soul. That just because something is okay in the Torah doesn't mean that a person has to do it. One of the examples we've seen is that slavery. And even though there's many, many laws regarding slavery, that a person has to treat somebody exceptionally well. Exceptionally well, from a Torah perspective. But nowadays, humanity will tell you that that's not moral. Or let's say it differently, is that we feel it's not something that's where humanity is going. So even though the Torah says that there's such a thing of having slavery, but not in the way that you would think, in the way that you totally take care of somebody who's serving. For example, I grew up with a lot of guys from South Africa. So they'll tell you that they have nannies that live in their house that help take care of. I remember I was living with somebody, he said a spoon was on his table. He never saw, he would move like this, the spoon would be gone. And he said his nanny was part of the family, very close to her. She had much more money than anybody else in the community. They paid for her children to go to college. Like she felt like I have a great life. So it's not slavery, that she's in servitude and is happy about that. And will do really anything to just make sure that the family is being taken care of, like a nanny. So maybe in certain societies it still goes, but a person has a feeling like as we're moving towards the Geula, that maybe we want that nanny to build a business herself. So this is the sensitivity of the soul is growing. A person can never say something the Torah said is asur, is prohibited. Yes, you could do it. I've grown wiser than the Torah to permit something which is prohibited. That's not possible. But something which is permitted, which means there's a Torah way to do this, a person could say, I don't feel like meat. A person could feel like, I don't know if this is the avodah. I'm not sure if this is where things are going. I think some people are doing it in a healthy way. I think some people are not doing it in a healthy way. I was definitely part of this movement, very much so, of raw foods and vegan. And you see people that made it into like idol worship, like your whole life is just about food. It's always funny that there's such an Indian called a foodie. Like, what does that mean? Like yeah, I'm defined by food. That's right.
That's not good.
The body can't be. The body can be a place of the resting place where the soul is serving God. You can't turn the temple into God.
So someone who says my body is a temple is still far away.
No. Well, if it's a temple that is now a place of service of God, that's very good. But if the temple became God, that's very bad. That's already an idol. You put an idol into the temple. That's not good.
What kind of tree your body is?
We have a temple. We're in the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash is the place where you meet God. And it's not the sticks and the stones, because God said, I'll break these sticks and stones. So yes, you should have a body that is healthy in order to be of the service of God. So let's go on for a few minutes. So we said that man was placed inside the garden. And then it says like this. V'yatzmach Hashem Elokim minu adama kol eitz nechmad lamara. Okay, the boy sign. We are about to introduce the world of the tree of life. And God planted all the trees, we're in verse 9, Bereshis 2:9. All trees that are nechmad lamare, there's something good to the sight, v'toiv l'maychel, and delicious to eat. So what do we see already? Delicious to eat.
Other things, such like ugly trees, like trees that are not good.
You could even ask on that, why did God make trees so alluring? One thing we see is that all of a sudden in the garden, there are things that will pull the desire of the man. They're nemad. Part of the shir voice is also just to teach you how to learn Chumash, to learn to look at words, to think about words, to ask the questions that need to be asked as you go through any parsha in the Torah, that you know how to learn up Chumash, that you're supposed to learn Chumash like you learn a Gemara, making diukin, thinking about the words. You see an introduction that now the trees are nechmad lamara, they're like alluring, toiv l'maychel, good to eat. And then eitz hachayim, then the tree of life, b'toich hagam. Then God put the tree of life inside the garden, the eitz hadas toivara, and He placed the tree of connection, of knowledge, of devekis, of good and evil. What do the words toivara mean? What do the words toiv v'ra?
Tov is usually good, right? Ra is usually evil. Is good of anything?
It's an evil tree. Connect and disconnect. I think you're getting closer. You always want to look at the etymology of a Hebrew word, because it'll teach you a lot. What's the etymology of Ra? What other words have Ra in it? We say, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. You should love your wicked. It means your friend. You should love your friend as yourself. What did you love? Reacha? What's the word trua mean? Trua is a blast, is a sound. Yom HaTrua. It's the Rosh Hashanah is called Yom Teruah, the day of evil. Well, that can't be. It's the greatest day ever. So Yosef's really onto it. Is what's the sound of the Trua? Unlike a Tkiya. Tkiya is do unbroken. Trua is do 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 do. Separated, broke up. Umang. Is that Trua means, Ra means when something is separate, fragmented, disconnected. So when we say that Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha, you should love your friend, it means somebody who is disconnected to you, who isn't you, who there's multiplicity here, that even them you could reach and bridge this gap. That l'reacha, like you, like yourself, that you're one with yourself. Be one with people that you're even separate from. So then what's Ra now? Evil. Disconnected. So if you go to some guy on the street, and he's taking out his garbage, and he says, top of the morning, like top of the morning, Thomas McDonald. And Thomas McDonald is getting his Chevy. He's on his way to work, working. He's a union worker, and fine. He's an upright guy. Pays his taxes. Friendly, pleasant. Spends time with his kids. You say, one day, like when you give him one of these top of the mornings, you're like, Thomas, thank you. You ever thought about the Creator? He's like, I said top of the morning, let's continue. No, you ever thought about that? Where we go after this world? He's like, it's like a glitch. I said top of the morning. So we don't call that Ra. He's not an evil guy, but he's disconnected. So I want you to apply this languaging wherever you see Ra in the Torah. He's disconnected. Pu'ulas mishtanas. So I want you to apply this languaging, that Ra means disconnected. Now, are there evil people that are very disconnected? Yes. So it's not evil, but it's not limited to whatever you have in your mind, the Wicked Witch of the West or something. That's just what comes to my mind, because I'm from the 80s, okay?
No place like home.
That's right. Tshuva. Tshuva. So, I want you to have a much more mature understanding of Ra. The Eitz Hadas Toiv, which means connection, and Ra, or disconnection. But the kind of cunning of Ra is that it makes you believe you are connected when you're disconnected. That's even worse. You feel like you're connected, but you're disconnected.
So where's how's the barometer for both values, right? Both in one point, right?
Yeah, how do you know when truth is truth in your feelings?
You need the Eitz Chaim. You need the tree of life. That's Torah.
So when it says I'm trying to hear this perfectly with Torah and Word.
This is now the challenge that the human being was going to be faced with, whether he would become mixed up in his identity. Before he ate from the Eitz Hadas, it was simple connection to God. After he eats from the Eitz Hadas, well, we don't know yet, this is pre, is that now the world became very complex. He knew a lot. He knew a lot of different things, but he was confused into who he really was. He had he was connected to both multiplicity consciousness, separation consciousness, but at the same time he has still feelings of tov. But it's confusing. Is the tov ra? Is the ra tov? I don't know. Things became very confusing for Adam.
Are you saying that this possibly the start of this like duality, or is it? Because we're also referencing that it was an actual fruit. So does that mean that the way of life was also a fruit? Or was also a fruit?
For sure.
But so it wasn't just like it wasn't the concept. It was also the concept of duality.
There's trees here. Eitz. Eitz is also means an eitzah. Means good advice. And eitz is giving you eitzah. Man, it could be good advice or eitzah das toivara. It's giving you eitzah. There's always somebody whispering in the ear. The question is, who is it? I like to always point out the Chaim says that the yetzer hara, that your evil inclination is your worst enemy. It's risen your internal ranks and become your closest advisor. So he rose the ranks and is whispering in your ear, and you think this is my number one advisor. But literally he's Jafar. You know who I want to be my internal advisor? Rashi. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Baba Sali, Rabbi Nachman, Ben Fega, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Alter Rebbe, the Rambam, the Ramban, the Ari HaKadosh. So now the Torah says something amazing. It introduces that there's an Eitz Chaim and there's an Eitz Das, and then it moves the narrative right away. All of a sudden the narrative turns into these rivers. So fascinating. Now, rivers are also an idea of multiplicity because there's rivers coming out. So look what it says. V'nar yoytzu me'Eden, and a river was coming out of Eden, lahashkei sesagan, and it was watering the garden. So remember, we said that Adam was placed in Eden, and that there was a garden in the eastern part of it, and from Eden, there was a river coming out and watering the garden. There's something very, very important. We have the markers. Is that one of the most holy things in the world is to have oneg Shabbat, right? The pleasures, the delights. Sefer Yetzirah says one of the most evil things in the world is this. Ne. This is pronounced ne, and then this is a. Okay? This means saras. This means like a type of disease. Okay? That's right. So now here what we have is we have oneg. This is the greatest thing in the world. And then we have saras. It's the same letters. So what do we have? What is the ayin, the nun, and the gimel? So the Sfarim say that ayin is Eden. The nun is Nahar. So there's Eden, there's this place called Eden, and then Eden goes into a river, and then it comes to the Gan, which we just had. That's what the pasuk said. So there was a river coming out of Eden going into the Gan. So you want to get that Eden, good, right? Coming into a river and you're in the garden like Lahash Kaisasagan. This is not good because this starts with a river, but I don't know where the river is coming from. An unknown location river. I'm sure it's not polluted. You could trust us. That's right. And then all of a sudden this unknown river comes to the Gan, comes into the garden. And all of a sudden, Eden is like somewhere else. So always remember, it's about taking saras and turning it into oneg. So says the verse, "V'nahar yoytze me'Eden," and that's the way that it's supposed to be. That there's going to be tremendous blessing. There's going to be oneg. There's going to be pleasure, goodness. Lahashka sagan, in order to water the river, to water the garden. Misham yipared, and from there it will split. V'hai la'arba roshin, and it became 4 headwaters. And then we're going to see the Torah to go into these great rivers. B'toich hagan, that these trees were in the garden. So b'toich means be'emtza hagan. So where's the tree of life? Right in the middle. There's all these trees, and where's the garden getting its life force from? From Eden. And right in the middle is the tree of life. Any questions so far? Before we go into the Fleishika Sugyas? Yeah, yes. Was it 2 trees? Or was it 1 tree? Maybe it's the lower part of the tree and the higher part of the tree.
Maybe it was half and half. Like one root.
Eitz Chaim b'tagan, the Eitz Adas Toivara, and it was also there, on top of it, on the bottom of it. Wow, let's go. I feel like we just got a big upgrade. It said if we would have eaten from the tree of life, then we could have eaten from the tree of knowledge on Shabbos. The tree of life is making Kiddush. We ate before we made Kiddush. That's why don't eat before Kiddush, Rabbi say. On a Friday night in shul, you know you can't eat or drink after sunset? No eating on Friday night. You eat on a Kiddush. No, you can't. Only before Havdalah, and not al pi Kabbalah. Can't have anything. You can't have anything. For Kiddush? For Kiddush, you can't have anything. For Kiddush, Friday night. Some water before Havdalah. After Shalashudas, but al pi Kabbalah, they say it's not a good idea either. You have to make Kiddush. You have to make Kiddush. Can't have water. Once you make Kiddush, you're good. You could have, you have your Suda. Yeah.
At this time, the mitzvah exists.
Yeah. The mitzvah works. There's one positive, there's one negative mitzvah. The positive mitzvah is eat from all these. The one negative mitzvah is just don't eat from that one. I gave you the whole garden.
But they were so, and he was doing the first.
Yeah, and there was something you should have eaten from them all. One of the things that we do on Tu B'Shvat, because we're fixing on Tu B'Shvat what happened here, is we eat from all the other trees. Different opinions. Grapes, figs, esrog, even tapuach, apple, that people think was really, Taisa says, is an esrog. Bread.
And the favorite fruit of the tree of life.
Tree of life is Torah. Who said it's a physical fruit?
So if there wasn't physical fruit in the Torah, then who says that it's a das, it's a physical fruit? It could be with action like that.
There's definitely an action, but you see that the Gemara is discussing fruit. They're talking about actual fruits also.
The Gemara talks about.
Yeah. With the Gemara.
Down that way.
They say, like we just discussed, either grapes or figs or bread, be an esrog. These are all Tu B'Shvat Torahs. Tu B'Shvat. So all of a sudden we move on to this like side topic in the narrative in Bereshis of all these headwaters. Like, what's the Torah want me to know about these waters, these 4 rivers?
To drink from them?
They each have different qualities. So let's just see one of them, and we'll pick up tomorrow. Shem ha'echad Pishon. One of the rivers was called Pishon. Hu ha'soivev es kol eretz ha'chavila, and it circles the entire land called Chavila. Asher shama zahav. That over there is where you find the gold. If you're searching for gold, so follow the river Pishon, which circle the land of Chavila, because that's where the gold is.
Where's Havila? I thought there was only one place could eat it. Why is it turning?
So look what Rashi says. Pishon, who's Nahar Mitzrayim. That's the Nile River. The Nile River, Nilus, the river of Egypt. So why was it called Pishon? Al Shem Shemeimav Misbarchen ve'oilenu mashkenes haaretz, because its waters increase and come up and they spill over, and it irrigates the land because the Nile rises and would water the land, and they didn't need any rain. Now, the Nile did become a god in Egypt, because who needs to ask for Shemayim when you have the Nile? The Nile's where the action is. Who needs to look this way? Very significant. So that's called Pishon.
Where's that?
Nilus? I'm not sure the Egyptian etymology of the word Nilus. But Rashi's quoting it. Nile. You could, I'm sure, look it up. But the Nile is Pishon. And why is it called Pishon? Because it's like, Pishon means when something is increasing. That Pishon, kamo uposhu peroshav, like a verse in Habakkuk, that the horses were growing, like there were lots of. Davar acher Pishon, another explanation of the word Pishon, Shumegadel Pishton, that it was water, Pishon, that grew Pishton, which is linen. Everybody knows you want fine linen, Egyptian linen.
I thought it was different
Cotton, linen, linens. Negadel Pishton. Shenemer Eitzel Mitzrayim Uboishu Oivdei Pishtim. This is one of the prophecies in Isaiah 19, that it's speaking about some of the bad things that will befall Egypt, that the Nile will dry up. And all those people that are the Pishton people, that they rely on the Nile to grow the flax, to grow the linen, will no longer have that blessing. Okay, this is the first river, is the Pishon. It's fascinating. This is also a place. We gave a shir one time on the spiritual and physical properties of gold. The spiritual and physical properties of gold, where I went in a lot to the deeper storyline of what Pishon is, where this is where the gold is, how gold plays into the Torah a lot.
So the Nile comes out of Gan Eden?
4 rivers.
We just
Umisham,
Gan Eden.
to trace it back.
Climb up the Nile.
So from Nar Yotze Me'eden, that there was a river coming out, but here, the river's coming out of Eden to water the Gan, and then from the garden, it goes into 4 headwaters. Okay, Rabbi Isai? So we're in the sugya here. I want you to think over the next day. Why did Hashem make these 4 waters? Why 4? Why not 17?
Sorry, what did you call the
Pishon? Pishon.
They're like 4 times.
There are 4 types of judgment in Beis Din.
Four types of water.
Okay, so you have to then try to link them up. What's skila, what's chenek, what's sreifa. Okay, so then you'd have to think like the 4 imahois. Like how does it connect? Yes, the numbers are always connected. You just have to, okay, you have to think about it. Now you could say, maybe it's emes what I'm saying, maybe it's not emes what I'm saying. Hashem is emes. Hashem is emes. Hashem made the Torah, and He said that there's 4 headwaters coming. So I'm trying to connect it to understand what the meaning is for me. Now, maybe you'll say the meaning is, if you want to find gold, you want to get into the gold industry, go look for the Chavila, Eretz Chavila, and then do your research on Eretz Chavila and Pishon. Okay, they had a lot of gold in Egypt. They were characterized by gold.
Like Hashem was overflowing, like not created humanity, like his light and like that.
Multiplicity.
Yeah, the Dalit is like the 4 and then like the world.
Okay, so we have to see. These are things to think about. These are things that when you learn at Chumash, you should be thinking about things. You should be thinking. You should be learning up a pasuk in Chumash like a Gemara. Shitas Rashi, Shitas Ramban. The Ramban ala Torah, boysai. This is, to be a Yid, we need Ramban. First, Rashi, Pashut. Ramban ala Torah. So part of this is also just really getting people into the chashivas and knowing how important it is to learn Chumash. Not stam, let me learn it so I could say a cute vort at the Shabbos table and impress the host. But learning it for life, what are you teaching me, Hashem? About life. Get a voice like Tehillim, page 975.
Does Nahar mean river?
It means a river. What's the difference between a Nahar and a Nachal?
Yeah, that's what.
Nachal Noveh Mekor Chochma.
The Nihal is based off of the river of Nahar. That's what
Moishir Lamalo Zesayena Yelearim Yayin Zeshmayim Voretz Alitein Lamod Lecha Al Yanu Shomrin El Ayana La Shash Yisrael Adonai Shemecha Adonai Lecha Al Yad Yeminecha Yoimam HaShemesh Le'akeh Malayla Adonai Yishmocha Mikol Ra Yishmor Es Nafshecha Adonai Yishmor Tzeitzcha Vayecha Me'ato Yado